Welcome to this weekly webinar, the 25-26 Iowa State Reporting Roundup. My name is Jake Vanskoy. I'm the head of training here at JMC. I'm Eastern Iowa guy, taught high school English at a small school in Northeast Iowa, East Buchanan Community School, where my kids still attend. And I am joined by our friend from the other side of the border. Debate on which side of the border would be better. Rachel Cox. Rachel, do you want to say hey to everybody?
Hello, Jake. Thank you for making this a competition about who lives where. I am Rachel. I've been on the sport to training team for just about 3 years now. I live in West Central Minnesota. I will say though, Iowa State reporting is where it's at. You guys know what you're doing. So happy to be here today and join you on this webinar.
Thank you very much for that, and let that be known: Iowa 1, Minnesota 0. As we kick off another new school year, JMC continues its 45-year tradition of supporting schools with tools that simplify reporting and boost efficiency. Our mission remains the same: to empower schools with smart, reliable technology so they can stay focused on what matters most: student success. Join us today as we explore how JMC's state reporting tools can help streamline your reporting process. We'll highlight new features, walk through essential start-of-year tasks, and share insights to help you report with confidence. As always, we have our Q&A feature built right here into Ring Central. So if you need to communicate with the host, or if you have any questions as we go through each of these sections, please use that Q&A chat feature and we will answer your questions as we go. So the way our state reporting is going to be broken down here, we have some basic fundamentals, kind of the setup of your site. And then we have some basic data entry or program entry, followed by submissions and analyzing any data quality errors. So starting with the fundamentals of Iowa State reporting. Before you dive into state reporting, make sure the essential beginning of year tasks in JMC Office are complete. These foundational items, like setting term dates, updating student enrollment, and configuring building details, are not only critical for daily operations, but also set the stage for accurate, compliant reporting. Checking them off early helps ensure a smooth start to both the school year and your state submissions. We're going to start here with setting your school's calendar. And the one thing that I would say probably the most about the fundamentals, especially of state reporting, a lot of these fundamentals are carried out throughout your day-to-day processes in JMC. So many of you already have your school's calendars established because you needed to do things like scheduling, and we're getting to the point where we're probably starting school with students here in the next few days. So many of this you have probably already taken care of, but we're just going to touch on a few of these items because without these taken care of, your state reporting won't work. So we're going to start with the district calendar. The district calendar sets your district's start and end dates, and also is where you would mark non-school days like holidays, teacher conferences, or in-service. Helpful tip: a complete calendar keeps attendance, scheduling, and reporting accurate all year long. So this is where a lot of your enrollment information, your attendance information is derived from your school calendar. Then you also have your building calendar, which is where you'd set your term dates for each building and enter any special days that differ from the district calendar, like later start dates for kindergarten, or earlier end dates for graduating seniors. So helpful tip: customizing building calendars ensures accurate scheduling and reporting for every grade level. So we're just going to show a quick live look at how to set your school's calendar if you have not already done so. I'm going to start at the district level. And the pathway is the same no matter where you go, if it's the building or the district level. Under attendance, calendar, days. So I'm going to start attendance, calendar, days. And at the district level, all we are setting is the first and last day of school. So some of you might be wondering, especially if you're new to JMC, what's the difference between a district building and your school site or your school building? Your district might have multiple, might be comprised of multiple buildings. You might have an elementary or multiple elementaries, a middle school, high school, maybe multiple high schools, and they're all nested under this top district level. So you would set the first and last day of school for both, or for your district building, click save, and then you can pop over to your building level. And this is where you're going to set special days and term dates. You would need to set the term dates for each of the terms that you plan on assessing throughout the year or scheduling throughout the year. So you see I have SEM 1 and SEM 2 and all of my quarters defined. So I just click this quick link on the right-hand side, the View Term Dates quick link, and that'll give me a quick snapshot of what I have set and what I haven't set. So if I don't see anything filled out here, I know that I still need to set my term dates. So you easily set term dates. You find your day that you're starting. You double click that gray bar, and then this will allow you to establish, for example, your start year, start SEM 1, start quarter 1. I'm not really sure why we have a try in there, so I'm going to get rid of that. And we might have hexes, and you can run these simultaneously. So I click save. It's going to update this, and you see the gray bar here. It counts out the number of days. So day 1, day 2, day 3. The special days are what you would use to set no school days, in particular for certain grade levels. So if, say, you had an in-service day, maybe coming up, September 1st, Labor Day. If I needed to set this as a no school day, if it wasn't already, you double click that gray box. Sorry. We'll take the next day. Double click the gray box. It's going to turn it into a no school day. If I double click it again, it's going to turn it into a no school day in the morning. So if I have a late start, if I have a late start for kindergarten, or maybe my kindergartners are only going half days the first 2 weeks of the year, first week of the year, I can grab a grade 0 subgroup and set my no school in the morning. Double click it again, it's going to toggle it to no school PM. And if I double click it a third time, it's going to take it back to a regular school day. So just double clicking those days allows you to set the special days and the term dates for your calendar. But any questions on setting calendars? Probably one of the first tasks you're going to do in JMC to start the year.
Yeah, I don't see any questions. I'm guessing everyone's got their calendars set up and ready to go.
Okay. Rach, anything to add about those calendars?
Nope, I think you covered it all. Just that flexibility of being able to set a different schedule for different grades is really neat.
Wonderful. Moving along to another fundamental. This one is a little bit new. I shouldn't say a little bit. It's all new, brand new to Iowa schools. Configuring period attendance for SRI reporting. Many of you might remember we had a little bit of a scuttlebutt about our attendance reporting last year in the Iowa Truancy. This is not exactly along those same lines, but we have a change. And it involves establishing reasons and periods for Iowa's attendance reporting. And I'll kind of talk about how attendance works in JMC if you're brand new to it. But the edit reasons and cutoffs page in JMC Office provides Iowa schools with the flexibility of identifying reasons for student absences, including reasons that are exempt from Iowa chronic absenteeism laws with just a few clicks. So you'd begin by defining the absence reason and, if applicable, mark the reason as exempt from truancy to allow qualified reasons to be excluded from the 4 threshold report. Then you would specify which periods are used for attendance reporting for each grade level in your school, ensuring accuracy in calculating absence rates regardless of the frequency with which different grade levels report attendance. So to define your absence reasons, and really the only time you should define absence reasons is before the school year starts and before you've begun coding attendance. So if you are going into the school year and you want to either simplify or expand your absence reasons, now is the time to do that before you have students, before you've started coding absences. As we found out in the state of Iowa, coding them after the fact or halfway through the school year or recoding them halfway through the school year leads to plenty of headaches. So if you want to change your absence reasons to comply with what the state recommends, now would be a good time to do that before you have any absences coded. So we are on the period attendance, data, edit reasons, and cutoffs page in JMC Office. So period attendance, data, edit reasons, and cutoffs. The first thing that you would do, this is optional, if you are recoding your absence reasons, you'd click edit next to either a blank row or an already defined row to edit the truancy exemption status or to edit the reason itself or whether or not it's included in the conversion. So we have two checkboxes, the exempt from truancy and the included in conversion are actually calculating attendance to two different reports. And this is the way that Iowa is choosing to do this. You've got the SRI attendance reporting, which is the included in conversion column. And then you've got the chronic absenteeism truancy column. And you can see the site, the state's website for a little bit more explanation into why these are two separate numbers. But in short, the SRI number is purely a butts and seats number. They are just concerned with whether or not the student is attending school. The exempt from truancy, Iowa came out with some reasons that would be exempt if a student missed, for example, for a long-term illness. Even though a long-term illness gets reported via SRI, a long-term illness might be exempt from your truancy laws. So consulted the Department of Ed for more guidance on that, but you can code those reasons as exempt from truancy as you see fit. So if you're following the state's recommendations for absent reasons, it's not that you have to follow those reasons, but it kind of lays out what you would exempt from truancy and what you wouldn't. But odds are, if you've been using JMC for a while and you have your existing reasons, you can look at those reasons and you can tell which ones are going to be exempt from truancy based on the state's guidance without changing the code. And, you know, if you look at the state codes, you know, it's pretty difficult for families to tell what those codes mean exactly. So you might be able to provide more clarity by entering a full reason in there than just using the state codes. Step two, as I mentioned, you'll place a check mark in the exempt from truancy checkbox to identify the absence reason as meeting the state's truancy exemption criteria. And then the included in conversion, it's if you are converting the absence to SRI. A field trip is a prime example of something that would not be included in SRI because the student is actually participating in a school event. And I believe in the state's eyes, that is a school-related participant, and it's also exempt from truancy. So I might see a field trip coded as such, not included in conversion, exempt from truancy. Whereas a doctor or a dentist might be included in the conversion. And if your school deems this as an exempt from truancy reason, it might be also exempt from truancy. Then again, you know, if it's just a standard illness, the kid isn't going to the doctor, your school might choose to not exempt that from truancy and also include that in the conversion. Once you've coded your reason, you'll click update to save. And then here is the new-ish piece or the new piece. Those of you that were using the 4 threshold report last year to identify students that meet a certain absence criteria that results in an action. This is actually now required for everybody. So if you filled this out last year, you might not have to do anything down here. But this year, the state is drilling down to a finer granularity of attendance, and they now need to know what periods your school uses for attendance reporting. So elementary folks, you're now going to have to pay closer attention to how you code your absences. And I'll get into that when we start or when I show you the period attendance edit attendance page. But essentially, you need to decide for each grade level which periods are going to count for your attendance. So you'd click the edit link next to a grade level on that period attendance settings section to set those periods. Step 2, you'd place a check mark next to each of the periods from that multi-select drop-down list to define the periods that your school uses for taking attendance for that specified grade level. Helpful tip, if your 1st through 5th grade reports first period for a half day absence and second period for a full day absence, you would select the 2 periods your school uses when taking attendance to maintain accuracy when calculating student absence rates. Step 3, click that update link to save your changes, or click the cancel link to discard them, and then repeat those steps for each grade level until you have defined your attendance periods for the entire school. Once you've done that, you would place a check mark in this attendance is ready to be sent via SIF for all buildings, and that indicates that you have looked at this and you've deemed that these settings are correct. And once you place that check mark, then your attendance is going to be sent via SRI, or via SIF, I should say. So let's take a live look at that, and maybe we can make a little bit more sense of this. So I am on the period attendance, data, edit reasons and cutoffs page. So again, period attendance, data, edit reasons and cutoffs. And on the left-hand side of the page, you've got all of your reasons, and you probably have some reasons left over from last year. If you want to use those reasons, you're perfectly fine to do so. If you want to change them, you'd click the edit link, and I've already got some reasons coded, so I can't as 6, so I can't change that name. We ran into some issues with some folks changing names last year, but if I haven't used the reason in the current year, I can change the name if I need to. That exempt from truancy checkbox, slept in, that's not going to be exempt from truancy. It is going to be included in our SRI conversion, so that's how I would code that. Extracurricular activities, I've got kids that are leaving for football early or for volleyball or whatever it might be. That's a school-related participant, so it is going to be exempt from truancy. It's not included in the conversion to SRI reporting because an extracurricular activity is like them being in school. So we use those absence reasons to communicate with teachers, maybe why they aren't seeing a kid in their classroom, even though they are considered in school. The next piece of this, I think everybody's kind of familiar with this top half of the page. It just defines what is a half day and what is a full day for your school. So for the most part, your elementaries are going to be considered one period would be a half day's worth of attendance, and 2 periods would be a full day of attendance, just because for the most part, elementaries don't take attendance every period. Elementary schools tend to take attendance one time at the beginning of the day, and then maybe in the office, if they get a phone call that a student's leaving early for a doctor's appointment, they might have a reason to go in and say that student's been gone for a half day. And to recode, that's my 3rd grade, 1 period is a half day, 2 periods is a full day. My fourth grade, same thing, 1 period, 2 periods. 5th grade, same thing, 1 period, 2 periods. 6th grade, 1 period, 2 periods, because they're basically with the same teacher all day long. There's no reason for the teacher to take attendance multiple times. Now, once I get into my middle school, 7th through 12th grade, now they start to switch classes, and now our teachers might need to take attendance for each period of the day. So we would have to define what does a half day consist of. If a kid's gone for 4 periods, that is considered a half day's worth of attendance or half day's worth of absence. And if they're gone for at least 7 periods, that's going to be considered a full day's worth of absences. On this bottom right-hand side, not only have we up here, we've defined what is considered a half day and a full day. Now we have to tell the software what periods are we going to use to denote that. So the problem that we ran into and the problem that we're solving is some schools were a little inconsistent with on this edit attendance page. Oh, this is always usually a good time for a server update. But on this edit attendance page, right down here, you have all these periods that are possible for your school to take attendance. And if your school is like mine, we are a K-12 building. My elementary teachers still only take attendance for period 1 and period 2, but my high school takes attendance for their full 9-period day. So my elementary secretaries are used to just using periods 1 and 2, and they might select all day for an absence for a student. So, you know, it might look something like this. Okay, so Nick is gone all day, and I say absent excused for all day because they are sick. And all of these periods are counted absent. Well, really the only thing that matters for our elementary is that period 1 and period 2. So on that edit reasons and cutoffs page, what we're saying here is we use periods 1 and 2 for our attendance for kindergarten through 6th grade. So when you are taking attendance in the elementary, it's important to know which periods actually count for your SRI attendance and only count kids absent for those periods. You know, counting them absent or present for periods 3 through 9 isn't going to affect their attendance, but if they went in and say counted a student absent for period 3 and expected that to count as a half day, it's not going to. It's not included in that. It's not even being recognized as a period in which attendance is being accounted for. So it has to be one of those periods that is set on this page right here. Rachel, did that make sense to you? And are there any questions about that? That is a fairly significant change. It's probably the biggest change that's happening with Iowa State reporting this year. It's just something that needs to be said at the beginning of the year.
Yeah, no, that was clear. And I like how you showed the periods on the edit attendance page or edit period attendance page. I would just reiterate what you said about making sure you have those reasons in place at the start of the school year, and not making those changes once school has started. So give it some time now, make those thoughtful choices before you start having students in the building, and then things can get messy if there's changes at that point.
Thank you for that. So once your periods are set, place a check mark in that. Attendance is ready to be sent via SIF for all buildings, and just leave that check mark in there. And then your attendance will flow. Seeing any questions coming through in the chat?
No, no questions.
All right. Also have a new birth sex data element. This was due to Senate File 418. The Iowa Department of Education now collects the data element birth sex instead of gender for state reporting purposes. While the change for Iowa schools is small, it does carry some important implications. Things to note: the gender field remains by default next to the name field on the View Student Data page. So this is still gender, still on that View Student Data page. The state reportable birth sex field is defaulted to the sensitive tab on the View Student Data page now. And your school has the option of configuring the location of that birth, sex, and gender field by clicking the sex gender settings link on the file administrator options page. So this is probably more easily explained in a live look. So this is on the view student data page. And about the only thing that has changed is I'm going to go to the sensitive tab and show you. Last year, gender had this state code number, and it was actually D0050, and it appeared right next to the word gender on this view student data page, and that was indicating that the state reportable field is gender. Well, the state made a change this year and said the state reportable field is birth sex. We did not change anything on the client-facing software so as not to confuse anybody. The gender is going to default as the birth sex. So if you have a discrepancy between the gender and the birth sex, the birth sex is the one that would be reported to the state. The gender X option is still available, but the gender X option is no longer a state reportable data element. And as mentioned, you can configure this how you see fit and how your district sees fit. So if you want this birth sex item on the view student data page, and that's how you want to view, or you want your gender displayed, you can, I shouldn't have said gender, and that's the element that you want displayed. You can toggle that to here, and that's on the admin options page. So file admin options or file administrator options, it's this sex gender settings. So right now I am showing the gender data element. If I choose not to show the gender data element and save, gender is not going to be on the student data page anymore. But on the sensitive tab, the birth sex is still the state reportable item, and it's on the sensitive tab. I can move that state reportable item to, so this is going to say the sex data element location on the view student data page. Right now I have it set to the sensitive tab. I can move it to the top of the data page, save it, and now you'll notice now I have the sex data element up there. And if I go to the sensitive tab, it's no longer on here. So because I've moved it. And the other option would be to enable the gender data element and move the gender data to the sensitive tab and leave the birth sex at the top of the student data page right up here. So now I have my birth sex up here and my gender element on the sensitive tab. So the default, unless you change it, is going to be gender data element enabled, the exact same as it was last year. It's going to show up on the top of the page, and then the birth sex, which is now the state reportable data element, is on the sensitive tab. Any questions about that?
Well, we don't have any questions on the gender or birth sex options, but we do have a question from Carla, who's new to JMC. She does not have periods for her high school and middle school, and she'd like to know how to change that.
Oh, okay. Well, first place to check would be on the administrator options page, and you're looking at the number of days in cycle, and this is where you want to make sure that you're at the building level. So Carla, do you have one building for everybody, or do you have two buildings, like an elementary and then a middle school, high school, or how are you set up? If you go to that switch year drop down list, or the switch building drop down list in the upper right hand corner, you can see how many buildings you have. And while you go to answer that, I can explain that the periods are actually on that administrator options page, and it is this top number right here. Okay, so if you have two buildings, is one of them the district? Is one of those the ISD? And then the other one is your school, which is like the K-12 building? Or do you have like an elementary building and a middle school, high school building? And if you are, I mean, you might be new to JMC, but if your school is not new to JMC, this is probably set from last year. So the number of periods in a day are actually building specific. So if you had an elementary specific building that you wanted to just show 2 periods in a day, you could do that. And then if you had your 7-12 building, there's the district, there's the elementary, high school, middle school. So there's 3 different tabs. Okay, that's good to know. So if you go to your high school building, make sure you're in your high school building, and then you would select the number of periods that are in your high school day. So if there are 8 periods in your high school day, you'd select 8. If there are 9, you'd select 9. If there's 6, you'd select 6. Elementary building is probably only going to have 2.
Yeah, and maybe one thing to note too, Carla, so you've got your elementary and then you have middle school, high school. If your middle school maybe has 5 periods in the day, but your high school has 7, you would want to select 7. Whichever grade levels have the highest number of periods, that's the number that you'd want to put in there in that middle and high school building.
Yeah. Yep. Hopefully that answers your question. If not, let me know, or maybe provide a little bit more clarification so I can see, where I went wrong in that explanation. But just speaking of the number of periods in a day, where those show up, typically this is on, we went through the period attendance data setup page, but also on the schedules course, edit course data page. If you have a course with sections, this period, the online settings, the administrator options page sets the number that's available on that drop-down list right there. All right, moving right along here. So those are the fundamentals, the basic setup, and now we're going to get into managing student enrollment in programs. And this is going to start with importing enrollment history, or is it? Another change for this year, no more enrollment history imports. So great news, the days of manually importing enrollment history records separately are behind us. As part of the move-up process, JMC now automatically carries forward enrollment records. So there's no need for a manual import. So that's one less file to worry about, one more reason to love streamlined state reporting in JMC. Before, at one point, you did have to go to Iowa SRI, import enrollment history from a prior year, and click a button. So no need to do that unless you're directed by our staff otherwise. So if you want to review enrollment records from after the import or at any time, the enrollment records are on the student data page, and I'll show you where that is. So on the view student data page for an individual student, it's on the enrollment tab. Thinking. This kind of never fails.
That new innovation was just so mind-blowing that your computer needs to catch up.
Just needs to rethink about this whole thing. Yeah. This is also usually the time the development team likes to, horn in on all of our webinars by updating servers and such. So Hopefully that's not what's happening right now. But if that is what's happening, we'll have to get back to the live look here in just a second. Usually just takes a couple minutes to reset servers. So I'll show you where that enrollment history is when that gets fully baked. You will still need to import Iowa special education statuses. In JMC Office, administrators and directors can efficiently create special education rosters for the upcoming school year by importing special education records from the previous year. With just a click of a button, special education records used for reporting students receiving services to the state can be easily updated at the beginning of the school year. By importing special education data in JMC, administrators and directors can save time and ensure accurate state reporting, streamlining the process of managing special education records and ensuring compliance with reporting requirements. In JMC Office, go to Iowa Special Education, import special education from a prior year. So this is Iowa Special Education, import special education from a prior year. Step 1, click the import button to import special education history records from the last year into the current year. Helpful tip, ensure complete records to start the new school year by importing special education history after all prior year special education data has been updated. So if you have done any I should say at the end of last year, you should have closed out any records through reevaluation of statuses or anything like that. You make those changes first in last year's database. So if you have to use the switch year to do that, you'd want to close out those records and then import all of the new ones, or all those old records into the new school year. Fun fact, importing special education data from a prior year will overwrite any data that's entered into the current year. So before you go out and start entering all of this, you would want to import from the prior year first, or make sure your info is complete from the prior year and then do the import. So let's take a live look at two things. We'll take a look at our student data enrollment history, and then we'll take a look at that import. I can see it's working because it did generate the last time. Rach, do you want to send a Slack to our developers and ask them to hold off on updating any?
I would love to do that. And I would like to say this does not happen to me in the Minnesota webinars, just so you know, Jake. But
no, yeah. All right, it's 1-1. I don't know. That might only be worth a half a point, actually. Let's go to our special education import. So Iowa special education, import special education from a prior year. I can at least show you on the menu tree where that would be. Hopefully we can get this page to fire here. But it's a simple import with a click of a button, and it will overwrite any data that is currently listed on the student data page in the special education tab. So just make a note of that. Here it is. So there's the import button. When in doubt, read the prompt on the screen. That's going to tell you exactly what you need to do. So importing special education from the prior year is typically done after the prior school year has been completed and all that special education data from the prior year has been updated. Generally, you'll run this once at the start of the year. It's going to overwrite any of the special education data in the current year. So if I go bounce to the student data page on that enrollment tab, this is where you would see the enrollment history records. It's going to be complete with an entry date and an entry code for most of your students. Most of your students are not going to have an entry date or an exit date and an exit code at this time. You would not edit an enrollment history record, this is a place where you would review it. And our special education record is going to be listed on, this programs tab or the special education tab. So a couple different places for this information. Any questions about that process?
Nope. Deb was just kind of one step ahead of us, wondering if she'd still have to import those special ed records, but
Yep.
You got it covered, so we are good.
Yep, same with the LIEP records. So this is one more piece. The LIEP, the Language Instruction Education Program data from the previous school year in JMC, is also another thing that would need to be imported. So by importing this data, you establish the foundation for accurate tracking and reporting of LIEP information. This is done on the Iowa import LIEP from a prior year in JMC office. Iowa import LIEP. It's a button. It'll tell you on the page what exactly it's going to do. Step 2, click that continue import once it tells you the records that are going to be imported from the previous year to the current year if you agree with those, or click the cancel import button to return to the previous page. Let's take a live look at importing LIP records. So this is on the Iowa import LIEP from a prior year page. Click that import button, and that's all it's going to do is pull that information from last year to this year. It's going to let you know, okay, it's going to take an EL status from last year and it's going to replace the current year status. So if you agree with that, continue the import, and that's now changed. And if you're curious as to, all right, what all imports do I have? The start of school year checklist, particularly the state reporting item on the checklist, is going to let you know all of the imports that you would need to take care of. And it's just those 3 right there. Boom, 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 those 3 imports. So file, start of school year checklist. We did a webinar last week, I think it was, on the start of school year checklist. It's a great resource to make sure that you have all of the items taken care of at the start of your school year. Questions about any of those imports before we get into entering enrollment data?
No, we are good to keep moving.
Okay. This is probably the biggest aspect of state reporting that you would take care of on potentially a day-to-day basis. Enrollment procedures, and the process for actually doing the enrollment is not all that difficult, but what can be difficult is deciding when to perform those processes. So I'm going to show you a resource for that here in just a second, but handling students entering or leaving your school is probably the biggest decision that you have to make in order to create or how to handle those students that are leaving or entering your school. It's the biggest decision you have to make sure that your state reporting data is correct. So determine that right procedure for student enrollment or withdrawal can be challenging due to varying circumstances. This helpful guide covers common situations for students joining or leaving your school, helping you manage enrollment with confidence, keep student records accurate for reporting and funding, and maintain precise enrollment data. So this section, working with students entering your school, starts with the most basic. I've got a student that I need to add to my district. They're brand new to my district. How do I do so? It's the new student wizard. It walks you through the process of entering a new student who has never attended your school district, helping you add their information accurately. And the new student wizard, there's 2 steps to that process. There's entering their demographic information, and then entering their enrollment information is that second part of the process. So I'm going to show you a live look of that. And I'm also going to show you the resource that you can use. And I really like this article, and it's in our help center. If you click the little widget in the bottom right-hand corner, you can visit our help center and you can search handling students entering or leaving your school. And this article, I think this is such a great resource. I would have every front office secretary or any person that handles enrollment bookmark this article specifically. It goes through all of the processes, and we're going to talk through them. But the other thing that I like about this is it links you to the how-to articles. So if you read the scenario, so I have, for example, my students that are entering the school. I have a student entering my district for the first time. How do I create a new student record? Well, it's going to tell you, use the new student wizard to walk you through entering a new student who has never attended your district. Well, how do I use the new student wizard? I click here and I'm going to get that how-to of how to use a new student wizard. It's going to tell me go to edit new student wizard and walk through these steps. Are they new to the district? Are they returning? If they're brand new, all right, what do I do next? So I'll walk you through that in this live look, but I would bookmark this because there are many different scenarios that come up throughout the year, and we're going to talk about the most common ones here in this webinar. But just having this at your disposal for when these scenarios pop up. Like, for example, I've got a student that's leaving my school. They attended a couple weeks. Well, what do I do if a student has completed the previous year but left over the summer? Some of you are handling that right now. I have a student that has attended my school at least one day during the school year and is now leaving. This is going to come up possibly in a couple weeks. So there are a couple different processes that you would follow to carry out those actions as well. And I'll show you the main reason that you would need to follow these processes. So starting with the brand new school or brand new student to your school, the new student wizard. I go to edit new student wizard, and it's going to ask me, is this a student that's new to the district? Yes, it is. It's a new student. I enter their demographic information. This is step one. Enter their last name, first name, gender, and grade. So let's go last name Stevenson, first name Judy, gender female, grade, let's say she's a fourth grader. Once I click save, it's going to flip me to step 2 of this process. And if I were to skip add, it's not going to create an enrollment history record. I need to add this enrollment information to make this student state reportable. So what day is she entering? First day of school. The entry code, why is she entering? Maybe she's open enrolled. The entry type, this is a transfer from a public school in the state. Transfer from, say, an institution. Okay. The resident district and resident county, where does she reside? We'll say Blackhawk County. Answer these other questions: full-time enrollment, foster care. Is there a service provider facility and a facility type? I'm going to say no to any of those. Is there an IEP level? No. And then I click add. And once I've done that, it's going to take me to the student data page of this student. Then you'll notice that I have an enrollment record that has an entry date and an entry code and an entry type, which is what's needed for state reporting, along with a resident county and a resident district. So this enrollment history tab is the key for state reporting, and this is the thing that we want to keep intact for students that we plan on reporting. That's why we would never delete a student that has an enrollment span in your school. If you delete a student, then this enrollment record no longer exists, and you're either going to run into an error or you're not going to receive funds for a student that you should have received funds for. So that's the new student wizard. Any questions about adding a student who is new to your district?
I don't see any questions coming in, but yeah, I agree that article is a great place to go to, following those links to get to the step-by-steps that you need. It's a great resource.
Absolutely. The second piece that you would use the new student wizard for would be a fifth year senior. So some of you are experiencing this right now. You've had a kid that graduated from your school. The software automatically advanced them out of your school. How do you add them back? Well, that is using the new student wizard as well, but you would choose the returning student radio button and then find that returning student. This is also a tool that you could use for an accidentally deleted student. So let's say you deleted a student by accident, you can re-add them to your site using that returning student feature. And I'm not going to show you the live look of that one, but fifth year senior, use the returning student wizard function in the new student wizard. So enrolling a student that's returning to your school. So you've got a student that is returning after maybe they left the district before the end of the prior year and they are now returning. That's where you would use the add student page to re-enroll the student. So this is under attendance, student, add student. So I know this kid's record is in my site, so there's no reason to go create a new student again. You know, this is somebody that is returning to your school. So a good question to ask them during their, their request for enrollment would be, have you attended here in the past? And if they say yes, you would use that add student feature, and then you would find the student on the list, add the appropriate enrollment details, and click add. The re-enter student page would re-enroll a student who attended at least one day in the current year, left, and is now returning to your school in the same year. So they're going to actually have two separate enrollment spans. And the information that's asked is pretty much the same information, but I do want to show you a live look of what this does. So Judy Stevenson, she attended our school. She showed up on day one, and then 2 weeks in, she moves out. So how do I handle a student that's leaving my school? Okay, well, for students leaving your school, they attended my school during the school year. How do I handle them? Spoiler alert, I use the drop student page. Where's the drop student page? It's under attendance, student, drop student. Okay, so let's go to attendance, student, drop student, and I'm going to find Judy Stevenson. Oh, there she is. And when is she dropping? Let's say she's dropping on the 4th of September. And why is she dropping? She is transferring out of the district. Destination, just going to an Iowa public district. Destination location, you can enter that. I'm just going to click drop. Student's been dropped. And the big thing that you're going to notice on the student data page is the closing of her record. Now, she's no longer an active student in my building. So to find her, I'd have to go to all. And I could type in here, Judy. There she is. Helps if I spell it correctly. She's no longer active, but since she attended at least one day, she's still included in my state reporting and my attendance. And if I look at her enrollment record, now she has an entry date in there, an entry code, and she also has an exit date. So there's a span of enrollment there from 8/13 to 9/4. Well, now she's re-entered. She's showing back up again, so I need to re-enter her. Well, where would I go? Under attendance, student, re-enter student. Attendance, student, re-enter student. And let's say she showed up on October 1st. Like the cat that wouldn't go away. What is she doing now? She's open enrolled back in, entry type, transfer from a public school, and then we click re-enter. Okay. I'm going to go back to the student data page to show you what happened. Now she's back to active, but we actually have 2 enrollment records for this student now, and this accounts for both spans of enrollment. You might also see this for a student special education record that had a special education record that was receiving services that had a status change. So you would actually, they would show 2 enrollment spans, but they would have different received services. So that's something to note for your special education folks that are keeping track of that. Enrollment records, special education records are handled through enrollment history, kind of the same way as a standard enrollment. You just wouldn't see probably a gap in that enrollment. You wouldn't have the overlapping dates. So the exit date, the next day would be the entry date for your special education students. But in this case, she actually left for a little while. That's why we're seeing the gap. Any questions on the returning student?
No, no questions.
As mentioned, it can get a little confusing because we've got all these reasons, and students might be leaving over the summer, or they might be attending one day or a couple months, and then they might be leaving. So that's why this handling students entering or leaving your school is so important, to find these common scenarios. And if you see any other scenarios, let us know, because we'd like to add those to the mix as well. So this includes everything from dropping students. What do I do if a student has completed the previous year but left my school over the summer? Well, in Iowa and Nebraska, you would use that drop student page. How do I properly remove seniors who are graduating from my JMC site? We give you the steps for that as well. How do I remove a student from my JMC database who is entered by mistake or who was used for demonstration purposes? This is the only time that you would delete a student from this page, is if they never attended your school and they were either added by mistake, or you added them with the anticipation of them showing up and then they never showed up. That's when you would use the delete a student function, because they never actually attended your school. I think I mentioned this before, but working with students leaving your school, to withdraw a student who attended at least one day during the academic year, again, use the drop student page in JMC Office. It's under attendance student, drop student. So if they have attended at least one day, you would use that drop student. You would not delete them. If they have left over the summer, you're going to use the drop student page as well, but you would select that reason 0 prior to school year to indicate that they left some point during the summer. And the reason you would not report them as leaving on the first day is if you have another school down the road that has them in attendance on maybe 8/23, and you are reporting them as in your school up until 8/25. Now we have an overlapping enrollment record, and that's no good. And then the last piece would be that delete a student. When would you use the delete a student function? The answer is only if you want to permanently remove that student who is never enrolled in your school. And it should only be used if that student's records are not supposed to exist in your site. So that delete a student, it's under edit, delete a student. I'd go to the district level, and well, let's just say Judy Stevens was a figment of my imagination. She was never here. I know we created a bunch of enrollment records, but I was just doing that for demonstration purposes. I was just fooling. She didn't actually show up here. I click delete, and that's going to get rid of her record altogether. Any questions?
Charles does have a question about using that returning student in the new student wizard again.
Okay. This is the radio button you're talking about here.
Yep.
Two scenarios where you would use the returning student. If you've got a graduated senior that is coming back to receive extra credits for, maybe they didn't totally graduate, but they've been moved on from your site, so they're like that 13th year senior. You can add them using that returning student. And also, if you've accidentally deleted a student, you can use the returning student for that. So you just saw me a second ago delete Judy Stevenson. I can bring her back if I needed to. She's got to be gone first. Gotta make sure she's gone. I thought I went through that. Let's make sure she's not here anywhere. Okay, she's gone. And then student wizard, turning student. I'd have to log out and log back in to find her. Usually you can grab somebody that you've accidentally deleted using that. I did that for a school just today. I might have had to have deleted them the previous year too. Let's go to edit new student wizard, returning student. Okay, yeah, that might have been somebody. If I deleted them the previous year, I can bring them back in the current year. Or if they were, that's what it is. If they existed last year, I can bring them back in this year. So if I had a student that, let's say the student record, I'm going to go back in time, 24-25. I'm going to find a student, Jim Asith. He existed last year in 24-25. If I go 25-26 and I accidentally delete Jim Asith, use my did I imagine that? I know I didn't imagine that. I know I've brought them back before this way. Rach, have you ever used the returning student feature to bring back a student that was accidentally deleted?
I have not.
Okay. Gosh, I just did it earlier today, helping somebody out that had accidentally deleted a few students. So I might have to get clarification on that. So you would, primarily use that returning students to bring back graduated seniors anyway. Any other questions about enrollment?
No, that is it.
All right. So submitting SRI data, for the most part, SRI data flows through to the state via the SIF agent, and there's very little that needs to be done on your end to make it happen. So there are no buttons that you would need to push to submit this data. It's just something, it's a constant stream that's happening in the background. But the one thing that you might want to do would be identify data quality errors with the SIF validation page for Iowa State reporting. So the Schools Interoperability Framework allows schools to submit data from JMC office directly to the Iowa Department of Education, and the SIF validation page provides a clear picture of all data sent. Identify errors on the SIF validation page and update your data as needed to ensure the smooth flow of data to the Panorama Student Success Portal, to FAST, the FAST assessment system, to Iowa Achieve Special Education Data System, and to SRI and other portals associated with Iowa State reporting. So SIF really does a lot of things. It's really a cool innovation that is used by the state to get your data into a format that is used by the Iowa Department of Ed. And our SIF validations page is accessible to show you if there are issues with the data that has been sent or that is preventing the submission of certain data elements. So this is under File SIF Validations. There are actually two pages. It's File SIF Events and File SIF Validations. The SIF Events page shows every piece of data that is flowing from your site to the state agency. So anytime that you make a change in a student enrollment history, anytime that you add a SCED code to a course, anytime that you enter a discipline record, you can see on the SIF events page that record being sent. And it might take 24 hours for that SIF agent to pull that data, but you should see the data that's sent on a given day from your site to the state. The SIF validations page is the one that you're probably going to find more useful, because as long as the data is being sent, you don't have a problem with it. You just need to know if the data is not being sent for a reason that is within your control. Oftentimes, this is because it's missing information, or it has the wrong information entered. So the SIF validations page gives you the year as of the fall, the year that the information is being sent. We've got the record type, the natural key, and the comment, and a little bit about how to decipher this page. The record type column on the SIF validation page displays the name of the invalid data in JMC office to help you identify the problem that's preventing the SIF agent from sending information to your school site, or from your school site to the IDE or Panorama Success Portal. A typical message in the record type column would look like course section teacher missing, which indicates that a course does not have a teacher listed on the sections tab of the edit course data page. So in this record type, we've got a behavior that is a date that's not a school day. So we have a discipline record that happened on a day that is not within the school calendar. So it's letting me know that, hey, we got a problem with this data that needs to be fixed. We might have a course section that is missing a grading scheme. That's a problem. Actually, we have a few of those errors on this sample page. The natural key column on the SIF validation report displays the specific element within a record type that are contributing to data errors to help you narrow down why the error is occurring. Typical elements displayed will include course names, course ID numbers, section numbers, and student ID numbers to indicate the specific fields that you need to update in order to fix errors associated with the SRI reporting or Panorama Success Portal. So it's telling me that this is not a school day, and it's giving me the building number and then the student number that I would need to fix. Okay. And then the comment column will actually display additional information to help you find and fix errors in your student or course data. So typical comments will include a pathway, such as go to JMC office, schedules, edit course data, find this section with a period that is empty, and then you would know to, okay, I have to enter something in that empty field in order to submit that. And then once you fix that error, your data should update through an event, and that event would push your data, and the error would come off of your validations page. And this might not happen instantaneously, because the SIF agent is going to take some time to pull that data from your site and push it where it needs to go. I don't know if any of you were at the summer conference this year, but Connor Hood and Cynthia did a great job of explaining in a diagram how state reporting works and how the SIF agent uses your school's student information system to kind of bucket the information and then distribute it as needed to these other agencies, whether it be SRI or Panorama or FAST or whatever system you guys are using. So if you're having issues with FAST courses not populating, the SIF events page or the SIF validations page is a great place to check to see what is preventing that information from populating. So if you're having troubles populating FAST rosters, that's a great place to look. So we can take a live look. I can show you where it is, but I'm not going to have any quality data to show you. I'm at the building level. I'm on the file. Here's the SIF events page. And if you go to this page, you're going to see a bunch of information, and you can search it for a date range, but it's going to tell you like, oh, what did you do? Oh, I deleted a discipline incident, or I updated student personal information, or I made a change to section information, or this is everything that's happened. None of it necessarily needs my attention, but if it appears on that SIF validation page, which I don't have anything flowing, but I would see a report similar to this one that's in my screenshot over here, indicating where my error is and any problems that I might have. So a handy tool at your disposal. Does anybody have any questions about that SIF validations page before we wrap this thing up?
No, doesn't look like it.
All right. That brings us to JMC news and upcoming events. Do you have any new JMC users or returning staff members to your team? Hosting a regional workshop is hands down the best way to get them up to speed on our tools before the school year starts. If you provide the room, we treat your staff in nearby schools to personalized training that will leave them saying, I've got this. If you're down to host, please email us with a few days and times that work sometime in August or September. I will say our calendars are filling up fast. We've got a lot of folks that are asking for training. I see.
We've got a couple questions that popped in as you started there. Yeah.
All
so
right. Let's back this up.
we just didn't wait quite long enough. Tina asked a question. When this she'd like to know when the state ID population for new students would start working properly. It seems that there's a struggle with the state getting this done in a timely manner.
Okay, the state ID population for new students. So are we talking about the ID number, the student state ID, this field right here? Right, I believe. Let's go. Iowa student ID.
Yeah, Tina clarified, yes, that's state ID number.
Okay. Hiring state IDs. I think that's Nebraska, Iowa IDs. Gosh. I am not 100% sure on that. So Tina, I'm going to have your email address. I might have to answer that directly to you as far as so it's receiving state IDs for Iowa. I know each state's a little bit different, and I don't know if Iowa would push IDs to students with matching criteria, or if you have to hand enter those IDs. Does anybody know? Do you typically hand enter state IDs?
Lori's maybe shedding a little light here, saying that the unique ID is non-operational as of today. The state SRI meeting today said that they hoped it would be working by the end of this week. So I'm not sure if that answers your question, Tina. Is that the same thing that you're talking about?
Yeah, I think so. So the SRI does populate that state ID, and that isn't a JMC thing. So yeah, I would go with Lori on that. It sounds like, it's not. Okay, so that was one of the changes that the state made was they changed the state ID to a unique ID, and they're probably having issues with the coding for that. So
Yeah. Thanks for helping out with that, Lori.
appreciate that, Lori. Some states, force you to download a file from the state and then import it. I knew Iowa's didn't require that, but I wasn't sure if it was SRI that pushed that out or how schools acquired those IDs. So I can see Judy's asking about where can we find this recording. As always, with this recording and all of our recordings after the fact, if you go to our YouTube channel, just head over to YouTube and type in JMC Training. We have our JMC Training channel that looks like this. And we have an Iowa State reporting playlist. Let's see here, where would we be? There's Nebraska, there's Iowa State reporting. We will upload it here. You can see the 2024 Iowa State reporting roundup. We will be replacing the 2024 version with the 2025 version. And as a benefit of signing up for this webinar, we will also email you a copy of this video after we get it uploaded to YouTube. Usually you'll have it in your hands by end of day Monday, next Monday for sure, if not earlier. So it'll be uploaded to YouTube before you receive the email, so you can double check there to see.
Yeah, and I'm not sure if maybe we can lean on Lori one more time here. Tina wants to know if that's the process for now, if we have to look up and assign those unique IDs individually. And if Lori has left or if she's not sure of the answer, Tina, I think that I would imagine that the Department of Ed would probably have the best answer for you on that.
Judy, I'm sorry, not Judy, Tina, I am fairly certain that
we can't, it's down entirely. Lori said that's not even possible right now either. So
yeah, and usually it would be state IDs. Okay, export student ID file for the IDE and import student ID file from. So this is okay. So this is the process and how it would work. You can export a file from JMC. It's under Iowa state IDs. You'd export your student file. Sounds like this is not working right now, but export your student ID file, and then you'd import it to the state site, and then you would receive a file back from the state with those IDs. You would just choose that file and import it into your site. But it sounds like that's down right now.
All right, I think that covers all the questions. I don't see any more popping in.
I will wait. I'll wait.
Yeah. All right.
Our CSS folks are getting ready to get you ready for the fall term as part of the summer check-in calls. They're going to ring you this month to share a few back-to-school tools, most notably the start of school year checklist, which we talked about a little bit earlier, which is built right into JMC Office to help you divvy out, track, and complete tasks across your entire district. If you have any questions or just can't wait, email amy.bemis@jmcinc.com. Speaking of state reporting, in addition to state-specific regulatory roundup webinar sessions throughout the month, you can access our state reporting resource hub and YouTube channel, as I just showed you, at any time to learn and troubleshoot at your own pace, be it navigating data collection, error detection and correction, or the submission phase, keeping reporting snag-free and government funds flowing. For Rachel Cox, I thank you for joining us for this weekly webinar. Thank you for choosing JMC. If you have any questions about state reporting or any other topic, please email training@jmcinc.com, and we will catch you on the flip side.